Every self-help guru, every CEO with a book deal, every suspiciously cheerful fitness influencer has told you the same thing. Wake up at 5 a.m. and your life will transform. And millions of people believed them. Set the alarm, bought the journal, downloaded the apps, prepared the cold water bottle the night before like soldiers preparing for battle. And then the alarm went off at 5 a.m. And they hit snooze 14 times, woke up at 7:43 feeling like they'd been hit by a philosophical crisis and a garbage truck simultaneously, and spent the rest of the day feeling like a failure because they couldn't do the one thing Robin Sharma told them separated winners from everyone else. So today we need to have an honest conversation about 5M. What it actually is. What it actually is. Who it genuinely works for. Who it's slowly destroying. And what the people who swear by it are never, ever telling you. The mythology where this all came from. The 5M cult didn't come from nowhere. There's a real pattern underneath it. Historically, a disproportionate number of high-performing, high-output people do report waking early. Tim Cook 3:45 a.m., which isn't 5M, that's just a medical condition. Michelle Obama 4:30 a.m. Jocko Willink wakes up at 4:30, posts a picture of his watch on Instagram to prove it, and has built an entire personal brand on the implication that you are soft for sleeping past 5. The data exists. The correlation is real. But here's what the mythology conveniently skips. Correlation is not causation, and more importantly, selection bias is doing the heavy lifting here. The people who wake up at 5 a.m. and tell you about it are people for whom it worked. The roughly equal number of people who forced themselves to wake up at 5 a.m. were miserable, underperformed, got sick, and eventually stopped. They don't have podcasts about it. They're not writing bestsellers called The 5 a.m. Disaster or How I Wrecked My Cortisol Trying to Be a Morning Person. Survivorship bias has given 5M its entire reputation. We only hear from the survivors. The science they bury in Chapter 11. Let's talk about something the 5 a.m. industrial complex would prefer you not examine too closely. Chronotypes. Your chronotype is your biological, genetically influenced preference for when you sleep and when you're alert. It's not a mindset issue. It's not a discipline issue. It's encoded in your DNA, regulated by your circadian rhythm, and about as negotiable as your height. Roughly 30% of the population are genuine morning types. They naturally wake early, peak cognitively in the morning hours, and fade by evening. For them, 5 a.m. isn't a disciplined practice, it's just Tuesday. Roughly 30% are evening types. They are biologically wired to be alert later, do their best thinking between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m., and forcing them to wake at 5 a.m. is the neurological equivalent of asking someone to think clearly while mildly jet-lagged every single day of their life. The remaining 40% are somewhere in the middle, flexible, adaptable, more influenced by environment than hardwired preference. Now, the 5M self-help genre was largely written by and for the first 30%, and then marketed universally as if biology doesn't exist and everyone is just one habit away from being a morning person. This is not coaching. This is not inspiration. This is just bad science wrapped in motivational music. What actually happens when night OWLS force 5 a.m.? Let me paint you a picture of what chronic sleep misalignment actually does to a human being. Because the 5 a.m. influencers are very focused on the first hour of the morning and suspiciously quiet about everything that comes after. When you consistently wake before your body is ready, you accumulate something called sleep debt. Not the fun kind of debt where you pretend it doesn't exist and enjoy the money, the kind that compounds silently until your cognition starts degrading in ways you don't even notice because the degradation is affecting the very faculties you used to notice it. Your reaction time drops. Your emotional regulation, already humanity's weakest skill on a good day, gets worse. Your decision-making becomes subtly more impulsive. Your immune system gets quieter. Your creativity, which requires actual REM sleep to function, starts borrowing from reserves it doesn't have. But you wake up at 5 a.m., you journal, you do your affirmations, you feel productive. And then at 2 p.m., you're staring at your screen, unable to form a coherent paragraph, mainlining your third coffee, snapping at people who don't deserve it, and wondering why your optimized morning routine isn't producing the optimized life you were promised. Here's why: you optimized the first 2 hours and quietly destroyed the other 16. So what is the actual secret? Okay, so if it's not 5 a.m. specifically, what is the real thing underneath the mythology? Because there is something real here. I'm not going to spend 10 minutes dismantling the whole concept and then leave you with nothing. That would be very on brand for the internet, and I refuse. The actual secret has 3 components. None of them require you to wake up before the sun has made its intentions clear. Secret 1: protect your first cognitive hours, whatever time they are. This is the real insight that got accidentally dressed up as wake up at 5 a.m. The highest performing people do not check email first thing. They do not open social media. They do not immediately begin reacting to other people's agendas. They protect a window of time at the beginning of their active day when their brain is freshest, most focused, most creative, and they use it for the work that actually matters. For a morning person, that window genuinely is 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. For a night owl, that window might be 10 p.m. to midnight. The time is not the point. The protection is the point. If you wake up at 5 a.m. and immediately doom scroll for 40 minutes, you have completely missed the actual principle and just added sleep deprivation to your problems. Secret 2: eliminate the decision swamp at the start of your day. Here's something interesting about the people with elite morning routines. The routines themselves are not impressive. They're boring. They're repetitive by design. Same breakfast, same workout, same route, same sequence. Why? Because decision fatigue is real and it accumulates. Every micro decision you make depletes the same cognitive resource you need for your actual important work. The morning routine isn't magic, it's an automation. It runs on autopilot so your brain arrives at the real work with its fuel tank full instead of already half depleted from deciding what to eat, what to wear, and whether to check your messages. You don't need 5 a.m. for this. You need predictability. You need a morning that requires almost no thinking, so the thinking you do matters. Secret 3: what 5 a.m. is actually selling you and why you want it. Here's the uncomfortable psychological truth underneath all of this. The appeal of 5 a.m. is not really about productivity. It's about identity. Waking up at 5 a.m. means something. It means you're serious, disciplined, not like other people's. You're doing the thing they won't do. You're earning your outcomes before most people have opened their eyes. It's a ritual of self-concept disguised as a productivity strategy. And that's why it works for some people even when the science should predict it wouldn't, because the identity shift is real, and identity shifts genuinely change behavior. If waking at 5 a.m. makes you feel like a different, more intentional version of yourself, and that feeling carries forward into your choices for the rest of the day, the 5 a.m. is doing psychological work regardless of chronobiology. But you could get that same identity shift from a different anchor. A cold shower, a morning walk, 30 minutes of reading before your phone. The specific time matters far less than the commitment signal you're sending to yourself. The real question is never, should I wake up at 5 a.m.? The real question is, what ritual makes me feel like the version of myself who does the work? The 2026 specific layer, why this is urgent right now. In 2026, this conversation has gotten stranger, not simpler. We are now living through a period of almost complete boundary dissolution between work time and non-work time. The devices are always on. The notifications never stop. Remote work, which was supposed to give us flexibility, has for many people simply meant that work colonized every hour, including the ones that used to be protected by the physical act of commuting. In this environment, the 5M cult has taken on a new and somewhat sinister character. Because now it's not just about waking up early for personal development. It's been embedded into hustle culture as proof of dedication, as a status signal in professional environments, as an implicit standard that if you're not sacrificing sleep, you're not serious. And that's where it crosses from questionable advice into genuine harm. Sleep is not lazy. Sleep is not optional. Sleep is not what separates winners from losers. Sleep deprivation is literally what separates people who think clearly from people who think they're thinking clearly while actually making progressively worse decisions. The science on this is not ambiguous. 7 to 9 hours of sleep for adults is not a lifestyle preference. It is a biological requirement for cognitive function, emotional regulation, metabolic health, and immune competence. Any system, any routine, any culture, any workplace that treats sleep sacrifice as a virtue is not optimizing for performance. It is optimizing for the appearance of performance, which, as we discussed in the last video, is an entirely different thing. The actual framework builds your own 5M. Here's what I want you to take away from this practically. Stop chasing a time. Start chasing a condition. The condition is this: I have a protected window at the beginning of my peak cognitive hours. It runs on a predictable routine that requires minimal decisions. I do not let other people's urgency invade it, and I use it for the work that moves my life in the direction I actually want to go. If that condition is best met at 5M for you, wake up at 5M. Enthusiastically, unapologetically, post the watch picture if you need to. If that condition is best met at 7 or 9 a.m., or for the night owls reading this with quiet vindication at 10 p.m., build it there. Protect it just as fiercely. Name it just as intentionally. The secret of 5 a.m. was never the 5. It was the a.m., the before. Before the world gets its hands on your attention. Before the requests arrive. Before the noise starts. Create your before. Defend it like it's the most valuable real estate you own. Because it is. The people selling you 5 a.m. are not lying exactly. They found something that worked for them. They packaged it. They gave it a timestamp because humans love specific, actionable things. Protect your peak cognitive hours based on your individual chronotype. Doesn't fit on a book cover as cleanly as the 5 a.m. club. But the packaging became the product. The time became the teaching. And somewhere in the translation, the actual insight got lost. So tomorrow morning, whenever that morning starts for you, ask one question before you reach for your phone. What is the one thing, if I did it before anything else today, that would make today genuinely different? Do that thing first. That's it. That's the whole secret. It's been waiting for you at whatever time you actually wake up.